Wheel of randomness, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the 15 minutes that we shall learn. Welcome to Randomly 15 Minutes, where we give you a topic in 15 minutes or less, or your podcast is free. I'm your writer, Sam Rossi, and shortly Megan Klodnicki will be reading a script written by me on a topic she may or may not know about. This shall be fun.
Welcome back, everybody. I am your hostess, Megan Klodnicki, and today Sam has written a script for me on the Renaissance. So, let's learn about the ye old Renaissance time. Renaissance is the time period of covering the 15th and 16th centuries. It marks the end of the medieval age to beginning of the modern era, and is portrayed by an effort to revive and surpass the ideas and achievements of classical era. Great social changes in many work fields and disciplines like art, architecture, politics, literature, exploration, and science. It was first started in Florence, Italy, before spreading throughout Italy, then the rest of the European continent. The term Rinascita, I did take Italian in middle and high school, so I'm Rinascita, rebirth, first appeared in Lives of the Artists circa 1550 by Giorgio Vasari, while the corresponding French word Renaissance was adopted into English as the term for this period during the 1830s. Renaissance humanism was a worldview centered on the nature and importance of humanity that emerged from the study of classical antiquity. The concept of Roman humanitas, and the rediscovery of classical Greek philosophy, such as that of Protagoras, who said that man is the measure of all things. Although the invention of metal, movable type sped the dissemination of ideas from the later 15th century, the changes of the Renaissance were not uniform across Europe. The first traces appear in Italy as early as the late 13th century, in particular with the writings of Dante and the paintings of Giotto. As a cultural movement, the Renaissance encompassed innovative flowering of literary Latin and an explosion of vernacular literatures, common folk talk, beginning with the 14th century resurgence of learning based on classical sources, which contemporaries credited to Petrarch, a 14th century Italian scholar. The development of linear perspective and other techniques of rendering a more natural reality in painting, and gradual but widespread educational reform. It was myriad artistic developments and contributions from such polymaths as Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, who inspired the term Renaissance man. In politics, the Renaissance contributed to the development of the customs and conventions of diplomacy, and in science, to an increased reliance on observation and inductive reasoning when you make decisions based on observations. The period also saw revolutions in other intellectual and social scientific pursuits, as well as the introduction of modern banking and the field of accounting. The Renaissance period started during the crisis of the late Middle Ages and conventionally ends by the 1600s with the waning of humanism and the advent of the Reformation and Counter-Reformation and the Art Baroque period. Next time, we will discuss an aspect of Renaissance. Cool. I think it's definitely something that, I don't think about a lot of times, but it does encompass such a huge,
a long period of time.
Yes. And because it's because Sam's been doing it with our previous episode with the Renaissance Fair and stuff. It's interesting because it's for the Renaissance fairs and stuff like that, it's always a mix because I'm I can see where it's medieval stuff, but at the same time, it's it just also has a modern because it does. It encompasses like modernism, I
Yeah.
guess. Like, it's it's a different. I don't know. Like as someone who wasn't into like Renaissance period stuff and that, I always was just like, I always thought of it as a medieval type of way of thinking. But then at the same time, I also think of like Italy and like, Vienna and with their and the oh my gosh, the masks and the masquerade balls and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And that's nothing at the same time as like medieval stuff. I don't know. It's so weird. It's all mixed in together.
It is, because you got to stop and think. Let's go through the evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Gunpowder was discovered by China back in the 900s.
Mm-hmm.
Probably earlier than that. Guns did not become a thing on the European continent until the 1500s.
Mm-hmm.
So they were still fighting up until the Great War. They were still fighting with cavalry.
Yeah. Where you think of like knights in shining armor and such like that. Yeah. Yeah. It's like I said, it's a very like you said, long-term period of things. So it's like when people say Renaissance, it's like, well, it is a Renaissance. It is a rebirth because you're coming from the medieval times.
Yeah, you got the smarts now to be able to get out of the darkness.
Right. Right.
Now we've got the smarts to go back into the darkness.
That's it. It's definitely a time of thing. And it makes sense though, like where it does start ending by, because the Reformation and Counter-Reformation, that would be part of it too, because like with Martin Luther and stuff, that was the 1500s. So he kind of was a part of that too, but I could see where that took off more in like the 1600s and beyond. But
yeah, you gotta give time for word of mouth to get work.
Yeah, that's true too. That is true. Like they, with the printing press and all that, they didn't have their phones and stuff, so people didn't hear about stuff, and that's why it probably did start more so when people think of the Renaissance, like Italy and that, and then here's the rest of Europe that's still in like the Middle Ages and darker times and such, and then
well,
see.
The other thing that people often confuse the Renaissance period with is the Elizabethan period.
Thank you. Yes, that's what I was trying to kind of like say, but I couldn't. But that was in my mind. Where when I think of like Shakespeare and such like that, that is Elizabethan, and
that's a very slim. She ruled from 1558 to 1603.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very specific time period.
Right.
And Shakespeare went on to write during James the First, right afterwards.
Right. And when you think of like Renaissance fairs, it's like you think of that, and then there's also the medieval stuff. But at the same time, medieval stuff really wasn't around by the time Elizabeth and Shakespeare were like.
They would be tournaments.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It would be more tournaments than the knight actually going out and saving somebody's life or saving a king's life or something like that.
Right. It's definitely, like I said, it's never been a period of mine that I've had high interest in, but when you think about it, it's like, well, there's kind of more to it than what you learn. Because in the end too, for school, like I didn't, you don't really talk about Renaissance period. It's more like the Enlightenment and stuff that they focus on so much on. So
they focus more. They take us from the Middle East,
yes,
and Egypt.
Yep.
And then they teach us about Greek and Romans.
Yep.
And then they teach us about Great Britain history.
Yep.
Then they teach us about the American history.
Yeah.
We totally skip over any Native American, any indigenous people history.
When I was younger in elementary school, we learned about the Algonquins and Iroquois, and I think that's like a New York State thing. So, yeah, because if you were in elementary school in the South, you guys wouldn't have probably. But yeah, when I was in elementary school, we learned about the Native Americans.
But we don't get to know their entire story. We don't get to start.
No, there was stuff, but it wasn't like great detail into it.
It's
It
not
was
like what they teach us about Britain or Europe.
yeah,
or,
right.
They give us a SparkNotes version.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And then it's like then, yeah, and then they focus on and then as you get older, then it's like college is with like the Enlightenment and the 1700s and all John Locke and all that stuff, and I'm like, enlighten me, okay? But no, always cool to learn about different time periods, and yeah, those are my final thoughts.
Awesome.
Oh.
I think
Cool.
I think I might be doing one on Leonardo da Vinci all by himself.
Okay. He gets his own show, so.
Well, probably him and a couple other ones, depending on my mood.
Yeah.
All right, I'm Sam Rossi.
And I'm Megan Kladnicki.
Later, y'all.
Bye.